Hi, I'm Lyle Johnson. Welcome to Moose Jaw This Week. And today we're going to talk about, finally, an event coming to Moose Jaw that's been 2 and will end up being 3 years in the making. So I'd really like to welcome Larry Graham, the chair of the Moose Jaw and District Sports Hall of Fame Committee, to announce the inductees for the 2020, 2021, and later on it'll be 2022, all taking place at the same time in the same location. There's going to be a huge festival of acknowledgement and recognition for the athletes and builders of our community. Larry, welcome to the show again. Love the shirt.
Hey, Lyle, and you're exactly right. It's been a little while in coming, but we are extremely glad that the day is here that we get to announce our 2020 and 2021 inductees. It's a good day.
Yeah, and we've got, well, the decisions have been made on the inductees for the 2020 and the 2021 groups. And in the next, after we finish this session, we'll be putting out the word again in the call for people to nominate deserving athletes and builders from our community for the 2022 season. So it's really apropos that we do it at this time and we can get all this stuff covered. It's been a process, Larry. Let's just go through why we haven't had a festival, a celebration of these first 2 groups in the last 2 years.
Well, I guess starting in 2020, Lyle, we are, of course, we all know we're in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, and our process is we ask people for nominations in January of every year. We take in those nominations, we put them through a selection committee, and ultimately choose who we're going to induct that year, usually by late April, mid-May. And then we give those inductees kind of a word that they've been chosen so that they can make travel plans and do that kind of thing. Of course, in May of 2020, we were kind of in the middle of the pandemic, and there was a lot of uncertainty around, were we going to be able to meet, and our board agonized over it for quite a while, but then made the decision for, kind of the best interests of our committee and our inductees and the other folks that we were going to, and I have to stop saying cancel, even though I just said it. I'm going to say we decided to postpone the 2020 induction event until more was known about gathering limits and how we could do it safely and all of those kinds of things. Well, then lo and behold, we go through the same process in 2021, and same kind of decision point in about late May, April. I think we made the decision earlier than that, made the announcement that we were going to postpone the 2021 event as well, based on gathering limits and maybe people's comfort being in a large group. And because we do have some people that might be traveling from the United States or elsewhere to attend the event. And we wanted to make sure that everybody that wanted to attend could attend as much as possible and make it safe for everyone. So then we made the decision, well, we want to really give these people their time in the sun, as it were. So we decided we would make this announcement just a few short weeks ago, and let everyone know, the general public, and let these people know that they can tell their friends and family that they have been inducted in the Moose Jaw and District Sports Hall of Fame. So that's what ended us up here today. And as you mentioned, we're going to go through the whole process again in January and start with a call for nominations for our 2022 inductees, go through the selection process, and then make the decision. Hopefully we'll be able to have an event in the fall of 2022. That's our plans right now. Of course, it all depends on where we are in the world with the health situation and the pandemic. But we're hopeful that we're going to be able to hold a 3-year event, which will just be incredibly awesome. Usually we have in the neighborhood of 150 to 200 people for 1 year. So we're really hoping that we get 500-600 people for an event at Mosaic Place in the fall of 2022, and everyone can come see old friends and coaches and athletes that they played with or against, and just have a great time at the event and help us honor our inductees.
That's for sure. And of course, when you mentioned it's held in a room that holds 200 people, but this year, because of the increased size, we've actually approached Mosaic Place and said, what can we do? And they said, well, the Ford Curling Center doesn't start up until the end of September. So we've tentatively set for the event to take place in middle to late September in the Ford Curling Rink before the ice is put in, because that's a much bigger space, and hopefully it can handle the capacity of people that we hope to show up for the event.
That's right. And Mosaic Place, one of our huge partners in this endeavor, gave us a home to host the wall, and they've been fantastic about letting us know what our options are and the ticket services and the rest of the services they provide. So we're really looking forward to it, as I think our inductees in the community are. There's been people that have attended every event that we've had, and there's folks that came for the first time last time and told friends about it. So I'm expecting it to be a pretty good ticket that people want to have to come to the event in, as you say, mid to late September.
And that's for sure, because one of the bonuses of having this TV show right now before the nominations are going in starting in January is that you'll know who's being inducted, and you'll say, what, they didn't get this person, and then you'll have time to get it written up and get it submitted, which I think is a really important thing, because there are so many deserving people. We say, well, we did a great class, and the next year it's a wonderful class again. It's the standard of support and involvement in our community is tremendous. The history that is represented by the people that, and as we talk in a few minutes, the history of the people who've contributed to our community, to our athletics, is phenomenal. And you go like, how can you? And then the next person comes along, and you go like, wow, yeah. So let's start talking about what's going to happen, and then we'll at the end of it, we'll come back and say how you can get involved and how you can start planning yourselves. And the first person we want to talk about is a 2020 inductee, and that's Mr. Darcey Bussey. He was an athlete of great skill, and I'm going to let you carry on about what kind of guy he was.
Darcey was a fine athlete and just an excellent human being. So we inducted Darcey as an athlete for the sport of volleyball, and volleyball. This is Darcey's our first volleyball player into the Sports Hall of Fame, so that's a new sport for us. He was raised in Moose Jaw, and he participated in a lot of organized sports. Played basketball, volleyball, and ran track in high school, but it was volleyball where he really excelled. After high school, kind of 1979 to 86, he led the University of Huskies volleyball team, captured Canada West titles in 80 and 85, named a Canada West All-Star in all 5 seasons, and won the league's Player of the Year award in 84 and 86. At national championships, the Husky team that he was a member of won 2 silver and 1 bronze, and he was selected as the CIAU All-Star 3 times and a tournament All-Star twice. And he's the only U of S athlete in volleyball to win the CIAU Player of the Year twice. During this time, Darcey also was a member of the Saskatchewan team at the Canada Winter Games in Brandon in 1979. And then he earned a spot on the junior national team, where he spent 3 seasons, and then eventually moved up to the senior national volleyball team in 1982 and 1983. Competed at several events, including the 1983 World University Games in Edmonton, where Canada won the silver medal. And he's received many awards. Following he was inducted into the Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame in 2012, into the Canada West Hall of Fame in 2019. And following his career in volleyball, Darcey was taught and coached in rural Saskatchewan. Unfortunately, Darcey passed away in 2008. And in his honor, the Saskatchewan Volleyball annually gives out a Darcey Bussey Memorial Award to the province's graduating male athlete who exemplifies academic and athletic excellence.
Darcey was an excellent candidate, that's for sure. Next, we have John Hunter. Now, John Hunter, of course, he's involved with so many things in a great profile way that many people, anybody who's involved with baseball or hockey in Moose Jaw would know of John Hunter. But when you started digging into it, look at the things he's done. So go ahead.
John's one of those guys, I think, that just did, and we'll hear more about it in just a second with some of our other inductees as well. So we're inducting John as a builder in both hockey and baseball. So John moved to Moose Jaw from Kincaid when he was in high school and played juvenile hockey here, and then he was a practice goalie for the junior Canucks in the 1954 season. So he's been around hockey and sport in Moose Jaw for a very long time. A lot of people also know John from his business, the Rack and Joyner Menswear Shops. He began coaching minor hockey in 1956 on the outdoor rinks, and I'm wondering how many outdoor rink practices there are these days in minor hockey. I'm guessing not very many. He was a coach manager on several all-star teams, including the Kinsman Midget Flyers. He's a committee member of a tournament that the Kinsmen had called Stars of Tomorrow from the mid-60s through the 1970s. And that tournament hosted 8 midget AAA teams from across Western Canada each year. So it was a big deal. John became an assistant coach with the 66-67 league champion Moose Jaw Canucks. And he helped organize the Clark Gillies Invitational Golf Tournament in Moose Jaw that raises money and distributes the funds to local charities and the Moose Jaw Warriors University Scholarship Fund. He was also instrumental in helping many young players in Moose Jaw obtain that university scholarships and continue their education. In the early 60s, John also was an assistant coach with the dedicated summers to the local baseball team. And here, let's go down the list. He was a trainer, equipment manager, game announcer, scorekeeper, and even seventh inning stretch singer. So John was one of those guys that did it all. He was also the Regals Club president from 67 to 70. And then 70 to 71, he was president of the Saskatchewan Baseball League and continued his association with the Devons locally here in Moose Jaw from 1971 to 1980. John's had an impact on the character development of many young players in both hockey and baseball in the city. And you can see with we'll see this again in a few of the other inductees, but there's so many interconnections. As I already mentioned, John was instrumental in Clark Gillies' career, one of our inductees in the very first class of the Moose Jaw District Sports Hall of Fame.
That's for sure. And there's so many athletes who benefited from John's guidance, and he also employment opportunities. Many young hockey players would work at the Rack Menswear during their time in school in Moose Jaw because he liked having those guys around, and it gave the guys a chance to learn something about business and also keep them out of trouble, which John spent an awful lot of time trying to develop not just the athlete, but he really was concerned with the welfare of the person that he was involved with. And I think that's a great tribute to him. Now, Charlie Meacher. I've known Charlie since he's about 10 years old. And I had no idea of the depth of involvement and commitment that he has shown in baseball in Saskatchewan. Because he ended up recently being inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, but also you find out all the things that he did. Like John Hunter, you'll have a list of what he did at the stadium to make sure that it was ready for baseball. So let's hear about Charlie. Well,
Charlie started coaching with his son's Little League team in 1985. So I think that's how, I imagine how a lot of people got their start. Their kids started playing sports and somebody said, hey, can you coach? And Charlie is one of those guys that said, sure. And then for over 30 years, he's had a positive influence in baseball in the city of Moose Jaw. In the early 90s, he coached a number of bantam age teams and coached the Little League All-Stars. He joined the Midget Canucks coaching staff with Roger Anholt, another Moose Jaw Sports Hall of Fame inductee. He joined the Midget Cardinals coaching staff in 1995 and remained with the team until 2011. Those Cardinal teams often finished in the medals across various tournaments in Western Canada. As an administrator, Charlie spent countless hours as, again, one of those guys that just did everything at the ballpark. He was a groundskeeper, he's a maintenance man, he was a scheduler, he's equipment manager, and president. He tried to ensure that the players in Moose Jaw had the best possible equipment and best possible fields for the baseball players here. He served on the Moose Jaw Little League board from 1988 to 2003. And in 85, he was elected to the Rosswells Park board and joined the Saskatchewan Baseball Board in 1997 as a zone director and held the positions of midget and junior director. And he spent over 10 years on the provincial high performance committee. He was chairman of the Victoria Day tournament in Moose Jaw. He's also been president of the Saskatchewan Premier Baseball League, which featured the top AA and AAA teams in the province. And for 10 years, he organized over 20 teams at various levels as their scheduler and statistician. He also started the Moose Jaw Rec Baseball League for all those old guys that aren't quite past their prime yet, and that's still going on to this day. So a great place for players that have graduated to come back and play a little baseball and have some fun. He was inducted into the Saskatchewan Baseball Hall of Fame in 2014. So
yeah, he's such an unassuming guy. You would ever have any idea that he had all this involvement, and he's not a bad mechanic around old cars either. The Meacher family is famous for their Model Ts and the commitment to maintaining antique vehicles too, through the Sukin and Ship Museum out there. Now the next one is a really interesting character because he's not born in Moose Jaw, and he has a storied past before he got here, and that's Dave Pyle.
Yeah, Dave Pyle was born in Aberdeen, Scotland, and came to Moose Jaw as a young child and got involved in wrestling as a teenager. Now, he served as a hand-to-hand combat trainer in World War II. If you just talk to some of the people that Dave trained, I imagine what stories would come out of that. It would be incredible, and that's a part of history that we'd like to hang on to. So he returned to Moose Jaw in 1950 and opened the Moose Jaw Wrestling and Barbell Club on High Street. The gym in the early days just had a wrestling ring and a few sparse weights and apparatus. But Dave, undeterred, there was no sports funding in those days. Remember, folks, this is the early 1950s. So he began running pro wrestling shows to help with his business, and that's how he built the gym. And he moved locations a couple of times, but in 1958 he ended up in the old Peerless Cleaners building on Aminika Street West, and that's where folks my vintage kind of remember Pyle's gym being, and it was called the Physical Fitness Center, but locally I think it was always referred to as Pyle's gym. And he's one of those guys, and I think we've heard from one of our other inductees, Wayne Cormier, about a couple of stories about Dave Pyle, and this just reinforces it. He believed everyone had deserved a chance to compete, and if a young person couldn't pay, that was okay. Dave would train them anyway. And he always preached the proper techniques and kind of having a positive lifestyle. So again, building, I think, another one of those guys that built the athlete, but also focused on a person's character as well. So some of his accomplishments coming out of the wrestling gym, he had 115 provincial champions, 12 Canadian medals, 25 golds, won by 10 different wrestlers. So it was all over the map in different weight classes and different competitions. International successes included 4 gold, 2 silver, 2 bronze, one at the Commonwealth Games, the Pan American Games, and the World Cup. And 2 of Dave's wrestlers, Olympians Ray Lougheed in 1960 and Terry Pace, another Moose Jaw Sports Hall of Fame inductee in 1976, went to the Olympics. Dave also helped form the Saskatchewan Powerlifting Association in 1974, and he was inducted into the Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame in 1981. So lots of wrestlers, lots of legacy there from Dave Pyle and the folks that he coached along the way.
Yeah, and as on the committee, his name would come up every year, but we had to get somebody who could collect all this information together in one place and submit the nomination, because he was such a dominant force in our community, but we just never got around to being able to share that information with you. So we're glad we're able to recognize him this year. We've had trouble with the next one. If we said Marg Curry, people from Central in the 1960s and the early 60s would know who we meant, because she was such a dominant young woman at Central Collegiate in athletics. And Marg SIHVON is, I think, her name now, and she's going to be recognized. And one of those things that almost passed the knowledge base of people who want to write up these nominations. But at one meeting we had, one celebration, someone said, "What about this woman?" And we went, "Oh, tell us more." And so they've got more, and you're going to tell us what they have and why this is such a significant woman in our community.
Excellent point, Lyle, on both Dave Pyle. I'll just talk a minute. He was on our we wish somebody would submit nominations since I think we started the Moose Jaw District Sports Hall of Fame. And it finally came to fruition, and now we're honoring Dave. And the same kind of thing with Marg Curry, SIHVON. And now that I'll get into her bio in just a sec, but as the generations get removed a little bit from where they knew Marg or knew Dave, it's still important that people get out and make those nominations, because it's important to these folks, and we don't want to lose that history and our chance to honor them. So I'll talk a little bit about Marg, and there's I'll highlight some wow factors for me in Marg's bio. We're inducting her as an athlete in the sport of basketball. So Marg Curry was a young athlete, played, as you said, at Central Collegiate here in Moose Jaw, member of 4 city high school championship basketball teams, and she won the 1961 Moose Jaw Athlete of the Year award. After high school, she enrolled at the U of S in physical education, where she played with the Huskiette basketball team from 64 to 68, serving as the team captain in her last 2 seasons. In 1964 and 65, they won the Western Conference Championship and finished second at the CIAU National Championship in 67 and 68. This is a basketball team from Saskatchewan, folks. That's incredible. This next statement just wows me. So she played basketball. She was ultimately successful, went to nationals. She also earned varsity letters, 4 of them in volleyball and 1 of them in field hockey. The commitment that it takes to letter in one sport for 1 year is incredible. Never mind lettering in 2 different sports for 4 years and a third sport in 1 of those years. That's crazy. She capped off her university career by winning the U of S Major Athletic Award in 1968. She was a member of the Canadian women's basketball team from 67 to 72, and where they captured the bronze medal at the 1967 Pan American Games in Winnipeg. She was named captain of the team in 1969 and played exhibition tours in Cuba, and then followed up with other international tours with the Canadian basketball team. After kind of her playing career came to a close, she followed up becoming a high school teacher in Swift Current, where she built a basketball program that produced 4 provincial titles. And then from 80 to 84, she coached the Medicinac College team, winning ACAC titles and CCAA bronze medals in 82 and 83. Marg has also been honored with other halls of fame, the Swift Current Sports Hall of Fame in 1974, and to name a few, the U of S Athletic Wall of Fame in 1984, and the Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame in 2019. All well-deserved accolades for Marg, and we're glad to have her as a 2020 inductee in the Moose Jaw District Sports Hall of Fame.
That's for sure. And again, one of those things, we're so happy that someone took the time to write her up and let us all know what a wonderful career she had. Now, the last one of our inductees in 2020 is Eddie Staniowski. My Eddie. If you were ever at a hockey game, you would hear Eddie's dad, "That's my Eddie," and he would be yelling, and he's so proud as a papa, and well, he should be, as you're going to tell us now.
Yeah, Ed or Eddie Staniowski, I think, as I've always heard him called. We're inducting Ed as an athlete in the sport of hockey. He played minor hockey growing up in Moose Jaw, and in 1969-70 won the midget AA provincial championship with the Canucks. Then he moved to that other town just east of us, Regina, to play for that other team, the Regina Pats, as a goaltender from 1971 to 75. He was the most valuable player for the Pats in 73, 74, and 75, and established team records for best goals against, most shutouts, most games played, and most saves. He led the Pats to the Memorial Cup Championship in 73-74. In 74-75, he was named the WCJHL Most Valuable Player and First Team All-Star. And in 1975, he was named the Canadian Hockey League Player of the Year and was the top goaltender at the World Junior Championships, where Canada won the silver medal. Ed was then drafted in 1975 by the St. Louis Blues. He also played with the Winnipeg Jets and Hartford Whalers. Over his 10-year professional career in the NHL, he played 316 games with a goals against average of 4.06. And in 1979, Ed played for Team Canada at the World Championships in Moscow. Now, if that wasn't amazing enough, then his career after hockey, following the completion of his hockey career, he joined the Canadian Armed Forces, reaching the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. In his 29 years of service, he was deployed on peacekeeping and operational missions to several conflicts around the world, including Cyprus, Croatia, Bosnia, West Africa, and Afghanistan. And he was awarded the Order of Military Merit for service above self in 2008, and he retired from the military in 2014. In 2000, Ed, along with another Moose Jaw District Sports Hall of Fame alum, Clark Gillies, had their jersey numbers retired by the Regina Pats. And he was installed in the Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame in 2005. So another extremely worthy candidate.
He certainly had a Wall of Fame career in his, and I'm glad that he's being inducted. I think he'll be real happy, and I know the people in the community are really happy for him to see that he gets that recognition.
When we sent out the notification that they were being inducted and then eventually told all of our inductees who the other inductees were, I got just a really nice message back from Ed Staniowski saying how pleased he was to be inducted, but even more pleased that he was going in, and that John Hunter was also inducted. John was involved in Ed's hockey career, and Ed said what a fine and good man John was, and so deserving as well. So that's just a compliment for John too.
Yeah, and it shows the class of both people. It's and how deserving they are of recognition. 2021. Now we have only 4 nominees this year, but they're really power-packed names. So let's go off with Frank Abdou.
This is Frank's son Justin was in our first induction class. And if you were there, the son got to entertain the crowd and taken a few odd jabs at his dad and his dad's buddies that I think were Justin's coaches when he was coming up. So on to Frank. Frank's our first inductee in 2021. We're inducting him as both an athlete and builder in the sport of wrestling. So he was raised in Moose Jaw, where he played football and wrestled as a young athlete in high school. In 1964-68, he played football with the Regina Rams, winning the 1966 national championship. And he reserved his early wrestling coaching from another inductee, Dave Pyle, at Pyle's gym. Amazing how that happens at the Physical Fitness Center with several other young wrestlers. He began his wrestling career by winning a bronze medal at the first ever Canada Games held in Quebec City in 1967. And then he won the Canadian Greco-Roman title in 1968 and the Saskatchewan Open title in 1969. In 1970, Frank was recruited to attend Lakehead University, and the wrestling team he was on placed second at the CIAU National Championships in 1971. He was the only Lakehead wrestler to win a national title and the first athlete from Lakehead to win a wrestling CIAU gold medal. He joined the national team in 1974 for a tour of the United States and participated in the Western Canada Games in 1975, winning freestyle gold and Greco-Roman silver. And he followed that success by winning the Saskatchewan Open title again in 1977. Now, as an administrator, Frank spent over 20 years successfully coaching Moose Jaw wrestling and Elks Minor football. In 1978, he was chair for the wrestling venue and coached Zone 3 at the Saskatchewan Games. In 1981, Frank and another alum, Terry Pace, took over the Moose Jaw Wrestling Club from Dave Pyle. See how this works, folks? I love it. In 1985, Frank chaired the schoolboy championships and cadet under 15 championships, both held in Moose Jaw, and also serves as a board member for the Saskatchewan Amateur Wrestling Association and the Canadian Amateur Wrestling Association. Under his leadership in the 80s and 90s, the Moose Jaw Wrestling Club produced countless age group champions at provincial, national, and international levels. In 1993, the Moose Jaw under-18 team were Canadian champions. And in 75, Frank was elected to coach Team Saskatchewan in the Canadian Parasports Championships in Montreal, Quebec. Frank was also selected in 1975 by the Canadian Amateur Wrestling Association as team leader for the Canadian junior team under 20 at the USA National Junior Championships. Other people have also recognized him in their halls of fame. He received the Thunder Bay Athlete of the Year award in 1971 and was inducted into the Lakehead University Athletic Wall of Fame in 2007.
Yeah, he's just a nice guy, and I'm sure I'm waiting to hear what he says about his son and the other inductees. The ABDOUs have a gift of the gab, which is wonderful, and I'm sure looking forward to their induction ceremonies. Now, LORIE Boyle is in a sport we haven't had a lot of recognition about yet, but this is when you look at her resume, you say, yeah, it's wonderful. So let's talk about LORIE.
Yeah, LORIE is another 2021 inductee, and we're inducting LORIE as an athlete in sport of golf, and our first inductee in the Sports Hall of Fame in the sport of golf. So it's nice that we've got LORIE's nomination. And when you think golf and in Moose Jaw, you think about LORIE Boyle. That's just the way it is. She moved to Moose Jaw as a teenager with her family. I was an accomplished young athlete playing in a variety of sports: volleyball, basketball, curling, fastball, hockey. But she didn't take up golf until she was 25 years of age, which is amazing with the successes she's had. Beginning in 81 through 2011, LORIE won every local tournament she entered, including 11 Hillcrest Ladies Championships, 24 Moose Jaw City Championships, and 6 South Saskatchewan Ladies titles. That is just an amazing run. LORIE's been a member of the provincial amateur team an amazing 13 times and was named as an alternate 5 other times. In 88, her first year on the provincial team, Saskatchewan finished 5th at the national championships held in Vancouver, but won the low team net score. She has represented Saskatchewan nationally in every province and competed successfully in many other tournaments across Saskatchewan and Western Canada. In 2006, LORIE became eligible for the Saskatchewan Senior Championships, where she captured 7 titles and participated on 4 provincial teams. She currently holds 3 course records of the Moose Jaw Hillcrest Golf Club, the Weyburn Golf Club, and the Elbow Harbor Golf Club, each with a score of 66. So incredible. How many people do I know that golf would love to have a score of 66? LORIE was also honored by another Hall of Fame. She was inducted into the Golf Saskatchewan Hall of Fame in 2017. So another great candidate, and nice to have a new sport in the hall.
Yeah, we mentioned 66. The only thing significant in my life about 66 is I passed through that year in my birthdays. But she's a very competitive person and a good golfer and a heck of a letter carrier too, in her other career. So congratulations to LORIE for joining. And the only team that we're going to induct this year, these 2 years so far, is the Amber Holland curling team from the World Championships. And of course, Amber nowadays is recognized as one of the premier curlers in our history of Saskatchewan. But she started off in little Saskatchewan and with some friends, and they end up going to the Worlds. So let's hear about that.
Yeah, pretty cool. So we're inducting the 1992 Amber Holland curling team, as you say, in the sport of curling. And I think it's one of those things when you think about curling in Moose Jaw, Amber Holland is one of the names that immediately comes to mind. Moose Jaw has been fortunate to have lots of great curlers, but Amber's name comes to mind when you think about curling in Moose Jaw. She began curling at age 11 in Lorburn, Saskatchewan, and then in '92 she joined a successful Moose Jaw curling team of Cindy Street, Tracy Beach, Angela Street, and Maria McKenzie. And under the guidance of Coach Merv Fonger, another Moose Jaw Hall of Fame alumnus, the team entered the Provincial Junior Women's Championship held in Swift Current. The team breezed through the triple knockout competition undefeated to capture the Junior Women's crown. That was the first step. The Canadian Junior Championship playgrounds were held in Vernon, BC. The Holland team got off to a great start by winning their first 7 games to top the field, and then set back temporarily with losses to BC and Alberta. In the gold medal match, they broke up the game with steals in the 5th and 6th to lead with a score of 5-1. A deuce in the 5th by Northern Ontario closed the gap to 5-3, but the Holland foursome rebounded with a deuce of their own to win the championship 7-4 and returned to Moose Jaw as a hero's reception as the Canadian Junior Championships. They were then went on to represent Canada at the 1993 World Junior Championships in Grindelwald, Sweden, and Team Holland was one of the youngest teams at the tournament. went through the round robin with a record of 7 wins and 2 losses, and eventually returned home with the World Junior Women's silver medal. In 2000, the Holland team was named Times Herald Team of the Century and were inducted into the Curl SAS Legends Curling Honor Roll in 2004. So that's the Amber Holland curling team. Great to have them as members of the local hall.
Yeah, and a lot of connections for Stony Beach in there. People know where people are from. So it's quite something to have that the high quality of people. And of course, Amber's now works with Curl Saskatchewan or has, and she's also captained teams to the Canadian Championships for women. So she still continues to be a vibrant force in our community, and we're very proud to have her there. And the last one is one of the youngest ones that we've ever inducted. And that's young Levi Steinhauer. So let's talk about Red, Big Red.
Let's talk about Levi and my favorite team, who just happened to be one that Levi played for. Levi was born and raised in Moose Jaw. Attended A. Peacock Collegiate, where he won 2 provincial titles, football titles, and also captured a provincial high school basketball championship in 2007. What a collection of athletes they must have had in those years when Levi was at Peacock. He was selected junior male athlete in 2007, a male athlete with high academic standing in 2009. He started the 2009 High School Senior Bowl and played for Team Saskatchewan, winning the Under-17 Canada Cup tournament, and he earned a Tournament All-Star Award. After high school, Levi attended the University of Saskatchewan and played football, I think, for another Moose Jaw District Sports Hall of Fame, Brian Towers, which is amazing, where he was under scholarship and became a second-team all-academic performer. And that's amazing, folks, with the amount of commitment and time that a university athlete puts into their sport, especially football. To be an academic performer just speaks volumes to Levi's commitment. While at the U of S, he was selected to play for the 2010 IFAF Team World versus Team USA game in Austin, Texas. Levi was chosen in the 2013 Canadian College Draft by the Saskatchewan Roughriders. As a Rough Rider, he made the roster as a special teams player and a long snapper, and I had the pleasure of watching him win the coveted Grey Cup in 2013. Anyone that was there remembers that. It was a great event, and Levi was a big part of that. He was the Riders nominee for CFL Rookie of the Year, and he spent 4 seasons with the Riders, and then 1 other year for that team in Northern Alberta that maybe we just won't talk about.
They had to change their name. It was so despicable.
Yeah. Since then, he shared his love of the game by coaching youth teams in Saskatchewan minor football, along with many other development camps. So he's another fellow that gives back to the sport that was good to him. Levi also won the Times Herald Moose Jaw Male Athlete of the Year Award in 2013. So a well-deserving candidate, Levi Steinhauer in the category of football.
Yeah, and that's our 10 inductees for the upcoming years. But we still have, before we have our next presentation, an induction ceremony, we're going to have another class of athletes being nominated and chosen to be represented at this thing. So come January 1st, get on the Moose Jaw District Sports Hall of Fame website and download your requirements for the forms. There's some things that you have to do, and but it's worth the while to nominate people and say thank you to them for their successes and recognize them. And also, you get together with all these wonderful athletes, and you get together with some friends you haven't talked about for a while or talked to. It's a great evening. It's a great evening. And so looking forward to September, but looking forward first to January when we can start nominating. Larry, the last minute or two is yours. So what do you want to tell us?
Tell folks to listen to our local Moose Jaw media. We'll make an announcement in January that we're accepting nominations. Give it some thought, folks. If you need any help filling out the nomination or some guidance, give us a call. It's takes a bit of time to fill out the forms and gather the information, but it is well worth it. And we're looking forward to many more nominations over the years for athletes, builders, and teams. And keep us in mind for the big event next September, 2022. It is going to be awesome. It's a nice event, folks. We hope to see you there.
Yeah. And a lot of good people show up and spend some time together. It's really worthwhile. And can't thanks enough to Larry, to you and the committee of the Moose Jaw District Sports Hall of Fame Committee for making these choices, for taking the energy to make this happen and go forward and give some recognition to our deserving athletes and builders in our community. So thanks very much for doing that.
You're most welcome, and thank you for putting us out there and letting people hear a little bit more about the inductees. There's some amazing stories in there.
Yep, for sure. Okay, well, that wraps it up for this segment. I'd like to thank Larry for joining us, and I want to recognize you people to make sure that you do get some nominations in for the good athletes and builders we have in our community, and also plan for the middle of next September to participate in the induction ceremony. It'll be worth your while. So that's it for me, and thanks to you for watching on Moose Jaw this week.